is a doctor of immunology, a doctor of biochemistry. She is a cancer survivor. In fact, she had a stage 4 cancer diagnosis, I think probably close to 27 years ago. And something that she said to me quite often, she believes she is still here today because somebody introduced her to this NeoLife Nutrition and put her on the path of great health. And it's just an incredible story. Being diagnosed with a stage 4 cancer diagnosis is a scary thing for anybody. She's a wife. At the time, she had 2 very young sons. And so dying was not an option. So she's going to talk to you tonight about health, but it's coming from a very personal space. She has walked this journey. She has so much incredible knowledge that she's learned along the way. So it's coming from a very personal place, but not only a personal place, it's backed by this magnificent science, not only the science of NeoLife, but science that has been vetted by Dr. Andre van der Hoven and the science that made her comfortable with the NeoLife Nutrition. So Andre, welcome to the call. Great to have you with us this evening.
Hi, Drew. Thank you very much for that introduction. Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'm very aware of the fact that you are giving up some time this evening to be here. And so I hope that I provide some value and that you can take this out there into the world, either to help other people or to help yourself. I'm imagining that there are people sitting in this room today or sitting in this session today who are saying to themselves, I do not need supplements because I eat a balanced diet. And if you are such a person, I just need to tell you, I also was such a person. And in fact, when I was a kid, I have vivid memories of going to visit a friend of mine and hoping that I overlapped with the time when her mother would give her a spoonful of cod liver oil and malt, because then I'd line up next to my friend and I'd get a mouthful of cod liver oil and malt. And somehow I thought this was a very special thing. And I would go home on occasion and say to my mother, Lorna gets cod liver oil and malt every day. Why can't I? And my mother's response was, you don't need it because you eat a balanced diet. So I was raised in that way. And I might add that when I was a child, which was a long time ago, it was probably quite easy to provide a balanced diet if you paid some attention to it. And so I almost certainly was getting a relatively good balanced diet. But I grew up with that understanding. And in fact, in those days, science said that was true. And certainly medical science said that. My father was a doctor. And medical science still basically says that. I think many of you have been to doctors and they say, oh, supplements are rubbish, they're a waste of money because you get everything you need from your food. So I want to take a look at this evening and see whether at the end of it you agree that that is the case, and on the other hand, whether you agree that it might be worth taking some action to change your health. So I'm going to show a few slides, and the first slide relates to a report that came out in 2005 from the World Health Organization. And the World Health Organization has the brief of monitoring the health of the world and making suggestions for a way forward. And in 2005, they pointed out that we seem to be on top of infectious diseases, but the non-communicable diseases and the ones that we call chronic diseases were on the rise, and in fact were killing more people than the infectious diseases. So what are these chronic diseases? They are cancer, which is, as Drew said, something that I personally had to face. Heart disease, circulatory diseases. I'm sure every one of you knows someone with a heart problem, with high blood pressure, with cholesterol issues and all those sorts of things. Strokes, respiratory diseases. I'm sure you all know people who suffer from asthma, who whenever any germ comes along, go deep into bronchitis and have respiratory problems. Diabetes. Diabetes is an absolute catastrophe globally, but in South Africa as well. It is a huge health issue for individuals, but also for the state. It's a very expensive problem, which they are not managing to control. Obesity, which is it's a health problem. It is an underlying cause for all the other problems. Diabetes and obesity go very close, go closely hand in hand. And our current situation, what's been going on in the world this last year, the COVID stuff, they talk about the comorbidities, and people that have got other diseases, these chronic diseases, are far more susceptible to the virus, to getting it in the first place, to getting very sick in the second place, and in fact not pulling through and dying from COVID. And obesity is one of those very strong comorbidities. So when you are obese, you are basically laying yourself open to all sorts of additional problems. Then we've got joint diseases. I think we all know people with arthritic knees and arthritic hands and so on and so forth. And then the two in red on this list were not, in fact, mentioned in that 2005 report, but there's been such an upsurge in those in recent years that I think they need to be added. One is the mental health crisis. The number of people nowadays who suffer from depression, who are on antidepressants and that kind of thing, is huge and growing all the time. And that includes both adults and children. And then autoimmune diseases. In 2005, autoimmune diseases were barely recognized. And now there are hundreds of them being identified. And in fact, just about every second person that you speak to has now got some autoimmune disease, which are really kind of mysterious ailments that can't be described very well. So we all know that these problems are very rampant in our society, and we almost live in the belief that we will succumb to one of those as we age, and that we will probably die of one of these diseases, and that it's less likely that we'll die just of old age and the body saying, well, it's been grand, but let's call it a day. And so what was the recommendation of the World Health Organization in that report? Why can't I?
Okay, there was a little blip in your connectivity there, Andre.
Sorry about that. I couldn't move my slides, so I'll try. I'll try.
Okay. Yep. Okay. Your connectivity was a little slow at one point, so it might just take a second for it to come back up.
The World Health Organization said, in order to tackle all these crises, eat more fish and eat more whole grains. Now, that is, if you were told, just as a blanket thing, well, in order to protect yourself against these diseases and eat more whole grains, what would you do? Because I already eat those things. Okay, so it doesn't apply to me, it applies to everyone else. Other people might say, well, okay, I'll eat more fruit and vegetables, so I'll up my intake of green peas because I like them and then I can get them frozen. And maybe I'll eat some extra apples and bananas. And so and potatoes, maybe I like potatoes. And so I'm eating more fruits and vegetables. And other people might say, well, I don't really like fish, but maybe fish fingers count. And so when I feed the kids fish fingers, I'll make sure I eat some. And that's basically following what the suggestions are at some level. And what about whole grains? What would you understand from eating more whole grains? And why should you eat more whole grains? And how would you eat them? And so on. And so there was an underlying sense in what they were saying, but it was extremely impractical. And people wouldn't know what to do with that information. And so they also were paying attention to one aspect of a whole group of lifestyle choices that we make that feed into the problem of those chronic diseases. So I'll try again. Okay, Drew, can you move on to the next one? Oh. We're having fun. Okay, sorry about this, everyone. So in order to have a healthy lifestyle and a lifestyle that leads on to good health into your later years, you need to pay attention to quite a number of things. The first one is your diet, and we're going to talk more about that. The other one is exercise. We have a real problem with not exercising enough. And it's getting worse and worse and worse as we get more and more engaged with the electronic platforms, and they are frankly addictive. And most of us have got a feel for what it's been like to get very pulled into these platforms during the lockdown, because we were kind of obliged to do that. And to get back up and exercising and out into the world is taking quite some extra energy and committed intention on the part of many people, because it's so much easier to sit on your backside and do everything electronically. You can order your groceries, you can do just about anything without moving. So exercise is critically important. I don't know what's happened to this little picture, but it was meant to, it was about sleep. We are battling to sleep, and sleep is absolutely critically important. It's a time, there are just 2 points to make there. One is that it's a time every night when your brain detoxes from all the stuff that it has gathered during the day, and it needs to get rid of, it needs to flush out and be cleaned out. And it is also the time when the new learnings that you have taken on board during the course of the day get cemented into your brain and become part of your new reality. And if you don't sleep, you don't remember things very well, and you do not detox your brain very well. This here is about pollution, and we know all about pollution, and that's not only our water, but it's our air, it's electronic pollution, and it's affecting our health in a big way. And this here is about stress. Now, if anybody gets to this point in 2020 and says, stress is not part of my life, then I'd like to meet you and find out what it is you're doing. I think we've all learned the hard way that we do live in very stressful situations. And all these things have to be dealt with. But I'm really going to focus this evening on the diet aspect. And so, Drew, can you show me the next slide, please? On the slide, on the left, I've got good whole foods that are recommended for us. And on the right-hand side are the foods that many of us actually eat a lot, often, daily perhaps. And my question is, broadly speaking, in what kind of world do we live where the foods that we are provided with on the left by nature, the foods that we are meant to cultivate and harvest and eat, by our own intentions get converted into what we see on the right? And that somehow we think that that's okay. And somehow we are having to be encouraged to eat what's on the left because actually we prefer to eat what's on the right. And it's not by accident that we prefer to eat what's on the right, because it's convenient. so we don't have to do the hard work of maybe cultivating the food in the first place, then certainly buying it fresh and preparing it and so on and so forth. It's much easier to get something that someone else has prepared already. And the other thing is that those processed foods are actually made deliberately to be quite addictive. They've got sugar in them, which is addictive. They've got flavorants in them, which is addictive. And they are manufactured so that when you start eating them, you are programmed in your brain to want to eat more. And most of you know what that means. You just have to think of a packet of potato chips. And I know that if I'm offered potato chips, I either say no, thank you, completely, or I know that I'm going to eat too many, because the moment I put one in my mouth, it's very hard to stop there. It then becomes something that I just eat too much of. And that is on purpose. That's what the manufacturers are doing. And so be honest with yourself. How often do you eat this kind of food? Even if you are eating quite a lot of that. Because if you eat this kind of food on the right, it actually negates a lot of the good that you're doing if you're eating the food on the left. So you can't eat some of the food on the left and then eat the food on the right and say, well, I'm fine. You have to try and shift and eat the food on the left and stop eating the food on the right. And for many of us, that is a very tall order. And for many of us, we don't achieve that. And then I just want to briefly consider the food on the left. How often do you go and buy a piece of salmon? In my house, the answer to that is never, actually, to be honest. And then, do you know where that salmon comes from? Is it farmed salmon? Is it fresh salmon? Is it good salmon? Is it bad salmon? I don't know. None of us know. And the same is true for all the fruits and vegetables you see there. They look beautiful, but were they grown on soil that had all the nutrients that it was supposed to have? Are they nutrient rich? Were they picked ripe and sold fresh? Or were they picked unripe, stored, horse ripened, and then brought to market when the price was right? And we simply don't know the answer to those things. And if the food was not, if it was not grown on fertile soil and farmed properly and picked ripe and generally provided for you in its best state, you cannot be sure that it's got all the nutrients that you are expecting to get from that. And when I was a student at university, one of the things we did, we were learning how to measure vitamin C concentration, and we were all asked to bring an orange from a different supplier. And we then tested the amount of vitamin C in the oranges. And I'm sorry to tell you that oranges bought in the grocery stores had barely detectable vitamin C in them. And why do we eat oranges, aside from the fact that they taste nice? We consider them to be a supply of vitamin C. Well, if there's no vitamin C in them, then that's an empty promise. So we really are embattled in many ways because we don't know what the nutritional value is of what we're eating. So Drew, as far as I know, I'd like the slide off for a moment, please. So just to get back to my story, Drew said that, that I had a cancer diagnosis, and yes, indeed I did, and it was late stage. And it was 30 years ago, Drew. It's quite alarming to realize that when you're talking about your own story, it's like a history lesson. But that's how it's become for me. 30 years ago is history for lots of people. And so I had these two sons. They were 8 and 5 years old. I had this terrible diagnosis. And the first thing that comes to mind is intense fear. And I had a husband, and obviously I wanted to be there with him and for him, and I wanted to raise our children together. And so I went through the whole clinical treatment. I just wanted someone to fix it for me. And so I had major surgery. I had over a year of chemotherapy. They gave me the strongest doses that were available, hoping that my body would tolerate that. And then I had radiation. So I've walked that whole journey. But as Drew said, I believe that the reason I'm alive is not because of that treatment, but because of what I did alongside that treatment. And that was that I decided to find a way of supporting my health, not paying attention to my sickness. And the way I decided I could do that, based on my knowledge as a biochemist and so on, was to make sure that I was getting all the nutrients that my body needed, because a well-nourished body knows what to do to mend itself. And so I said to the doctor that I intended to take nutritional supplements. I'm very grateful that he didn't say don't, because to this day, there are doctors that say absolutely not, do not take a single supplement. He didn't say that to me, but he did say I would be wasting my money. And I said, that's absolutely fine. I'm prepared to waste my money because I feel it will be good for me and it will help me get through this. So that was a decision I made. But then the next decision was to decide what it was I was going to use. And it had to tick many boxes, but the two most important boxes, which I'll mention now, is that I needed them to be fully researched. I needed them to be backed by solid research, not just general research about vitamins and so on and supplements, but these specific products that I was going to use needed to have been proven to be effective. And then the other thing was that I wasn't interested in synthetic vitamins and minerals. I wanted these supplements to come from a whole food source. And so I started looking, and it took a while, but eventually someone introduced me to these particular products. They ticked the boxes and I started taking them. And I'm absolutely 100% sure that the reason I'm here to tell the story is because of the support that those gave me in those days. And one of the reasons I say that is that when you are undergoing chemotherapy, you are on a particular schedule. So you go once a month or whatever the case may be. And there are other people on exactly the same schedule on the same day. And so you get to know people because you see them with regularity, because you're all going for your next treatment at the same time. And of those people, the ones that I befriended and continue to be in contact with after the treatment, not one of them made the 5-year mark. And some didn't last even that long. And for me, 5 years wasn't enough. And certainly 2 years, which is considered a success in the medical literature, was definitely not enough for me. And so here I am 30 years later, my children are adults, they don't need me anymore. And it was a real gift to me to find these products. So Drew, I think the next slide can work now. Thank you. So in this slide, on the bottom axis, you see age. And the closer I get to the top end of this, the bigger that number becomes on my graph. There used to be a time when the graph said 80, and that wasn't good enough anymore. So now I'm putting 100 there. And then on the other axis, there's energy. And so this graph shows where one exists in your energy levels depending on your age. And so the top part of the graph is the vibrant stage, and then there's the tired stage, and then one slips down into the sick stage. And the general idea, the general trend is along that blue line, where somewhere at about 30, 40 or whatever, one goes down from the vibrant stage into the tired zone. And most of you recognize that. you've got kids at school and you're running around and you're trying to earn a living and you're trying to keep your kids on track, and life just gets exhausting. We all recognize that. And then if that carries on, which it usually does, we find ourselves starting to get sick. And eventually the last however many years of our lives are spent in the sick zone. And in my case, so the red hashed line is what happened to me. I fell from vibrant to tired to sick very early. And here I was wallowing in the sick zone, and I needed something to change. And what changed was I did have the medical treatment, but I started taking the supplements, and I have returned into pretty much the vibrant zone. Now, I'm not as vibrant as a 10-year-old, but you have to take into account that I'm not 10. But in terms of my age group and so on, I'm pretty vibrant, and I have got lots of energy and lots of enthusiasm for life. And my intention is to carry on in the vibrant zone until one day I don't wake up. I mean, that's really the plan. As you know, I'm not in control of the plan, but you get what I mean. Now, in addition to me going on this journey, my husband was not doing all that well himself. He was very much in the tired zone and heading for the sick zone. And the reason was that he was in a very, very stressful work situation. And actually, I was concerned quite often that I was going to lose him to something like a heart attack because of the state in which he came home in every day. So my husband was somewhere heading in the wrong direction. And then on top of it, these two children of mine, who were only 8 and 5, were always sick. They were the ENT specialist's dream. They had adenoids, and they had tonsils, and they had grommets, and they had grommets again, and on and on and on and on. And so this family of mine was really not doing well. And I'm the person who believed that we were eating a good, balanced diet. And I can tell you that that we didn't slip into the donuts and hamburger slot very often at all. So in terms of a good, healthy diet, I was doing pretty well. But clearly, I was not supplying the food I was feeding the family was not supplying enough of the essential nutrients. And I needed to do something because I'd got the hammer to the head blow with the cancer diagnosis. But when I started using the products, I started thinking, well, better give it to the rest of the family. So with my husband, he started taking them. He wasn't very excited about it, but he figured that maybe he should support me. And so he started taking them. And a month later, he said, well, maybe you should have more. And now 30 years later, he hasn't stopped. But the very interesting thing about that is that his work colleagues said to him, what on earth is it that you're doing differently? Because your ability to manage the work situation has totally changed. You are far better able to cope with the stresses. And that was an unasked for observation. And then as far as my kids were concerned, it totally turned around. They were no longer getting all these ENT problems. And I like to tell the story of my elder boy who asked his dad to take him to the shop to get some sweets, which was an unusual request. And when asked why he wanted to do that, he said, well, the doctor always used to give me a sweet when I used to go and see him. He's done such a good job at fixing me that I'd like to take him a packet of sweets to thank him. And so suddenly, every single member of my family's health had turned around. And all we had done was to make sure that we were getting the proper nutrients on board. So what are these nutrients? Drew, can I have the next slide? The first thing I would recommend, particularly if you're looking for the first time, and if I understand that there is a pocket issue. But if you can afford to try the product called Pro Vitality, I would strongly recommend that you give that a try for a month. And if at the end of the month you figure it's doing you no good, then by all means, try something else. But I'm absolutely certain that you will notice the difference. And so there are 4 components in every daily dose from a Pro Vitality. The 4 components are shown there at the bottom. They're capsules and tablets. And so let's look at them individually. Next slide, please, Drew. The first one was that green capsule, and that green capsule is a product called TreaNN. And TreaNN is, in fact, about the whole grains the World Health Organization spoke of. It said you must eat more whole grains. Right. What is it about the whole grains that makes them valuable? It's important, yes, to get some of the fiber that you get from whole grains, but the starch or the carbohydrate that you get from whole grains is the same carbohydrate you get from refined grains. So that's not really the issue. But what is the issue is the oils that are removed from the whole grains during the refining process to make it easier to mill the grain and easier to preserve the shelf life of the products in the shops. And so what industry has done is taken out the most important nutritional component from the grains to make it easier to process the food and to keep it going for longer on the shelves. And when I was a kid, which I know is history, we used to see bread go moldy. If you didn't eat the bread within a day, it went moldy. Nowadays, bread doesn't know how to go moldy anymore, it seems to me. And one of the reasons is that mold needs nutrients to grow on. A pure carbohydrate base will not even support the life of a mold. So why on earth do we think it will support our health? It doesn't. And so this product, TreaNN, enables us to return these very important oils to our diet. And this one product, you can get it on its own, is actually transformational for most people. Why? Because it makes sure that your cell membranes are healthy. And if your cell membranes are healthy, the foods and ingredients, nutrients that have to get into the cell so it functions properly, do get in. The waste material that has to get out of the cell can get out. And a well-functioning cell leads to a well-functioning organ, which leads to a well-functioning body. But in addition to that, membranes are required in the energy-producing systems of the cell. And so if you are short of these TreaNN oils, the membranes have to use oil, so they put margarine oil or whatever you are eating into the membranes. Those membranes are not able to do the job they're designed to do, and your body simply cannot make the energy that it has to make in order to do everything that your body does. Now that energy is called ATP. Your body doesn't store it. You can't get it from anywhere else. It's made on site, on demand. And if your cells can't make it, then you run out of energy. And how many people do you know who on a regular basis find themselves running out of energy to do the simple tasks that they need for the day? And that is fundamentally because we are starving our cells of the TreaNN oils. So here is a way in which one can make sure you're getting them, and it can transform your life, actually. Can you get it anywhere else? Not in a supplement form, absolutely not. Can you get it from your food? Well, yes, if you find whole grains that haven't been, they aren't GMO grains, that they haven't been sprayed with all sorts of things, they haven't been spoiled in any way, that they are fresh, and so on and so forth. So the effort that is required to make sure that you get it from whole grains is probably beyond the effort that most of us are able to give it. And so the most direct, easiest, simplest solution is to supplement with treonine. And I take treonine every single day of my life. Next slide, please, Drew.
And Andre, I just want to apologize to everybody. Due to connectivity issues, I'm running Andre's slides, and I can see a number of them, the formatting has been lost. So I just want to apologize up front. So go for it, Andre.
Okay. The next one is Carotenoid Complex. They're these oblong brown capsules. And this is a concentrate of the fruits and vegetables that we really need to be eating in quantity every day. These fruits and vegetables are the bright reds and oranges and dark greens, and they contain phytonutrients that are essential for our good health. So the reason I mentioned bananas and apples right at the beginning of the talk is not that bananas and apples are bad for you, but they are not a source of carotenoids. So if you're eating lots of a few fruits and vegetables, there are lots of things you aren't actually getting in your diet. So why are these things important? Well, they are very, very potent antioxidants. Antioxidants are essential for our health. The more stressed we get, the more we need. And then something that is super important is that they have been proven to make sure that our immune system is working to full capacity. And, you know, if in 3 weeks you can improve or increase your immunity by 37%, you have changed your life. And one of the reasons that you get something like cancer is that your immune system isn't up to the job. Normally, your immune system should be detecting these cells that are not serving you and be getting rid of them. But if the immune system is sluggish or dysfunctional in any way, those cancer-producing cells escape the system, and they grow and they grow and they take over. And if you don't stop it, they can kill you. So this is a very important additional supplement. Can you get it from your diet? Well, sure. If you eat lots of the right fruits and vegetables that have been produced properly, that have not been force ripened, and so on. Is it likely that you're getting it from your fruits and vegetables? Not much. Do you want to take the risk of running on empty? That's your choice. But the odds are that you are running on empty a lot of the time if you don't supplement. And I don't mean to frighten you. I'm just really trying to tell you what I totally believe to be true so that you can make your decisions. Next slide, Drew. The third component are omega oils. Now, I don't think anyone who reads anything at all, even the newspaper these days, is unaware of the fact that omega-3 supplements are a big thing. And I believe that we all need to be taking them. I say to people that unless you're an Eskimo, you probably should be taking a supplement, because we simply do not eat enough of the right fish to get this particular component. What is the right fish? Well, the right fish is the oily fish. So the dark colored fish, the salmons, the pilchards, the mackerels, those sorts of fish. Hake is a good source of protein, but it is a very poor source of omega-3. So if you consider eating hake to be your source of omega-3, you are just misleading yourself, I'm sorry to say. Why is it important? It's actually important for just about everything, but I just want to point out a couple of things to you. Down here in the middle, it says it's a natural anti-inflammatory. Now, one of the health challenges that we have, I mentioned it earlier, is stress. We live in very stressful times. Our lives are super stressed. And when you live in stress, your body goes into a state of inflammation. And we are now recognized as living in a state of low-grade inflammation all the time because of the stress that we live under. And that low-grade inflammation is considered to be one of the causes of the chronic diseases. And if we don't do something to control the inflammation, then we are heading for trouble. And the omega-3 oils are, as I say, natural anti-inflammatories. And they do an excellent job at keeping our inflammation levels down and under control. And then the other thing that I want to point out is that it's essential in pregnancy. And the reason it's essential in pregnancy is because the mother of the growing fetus is the source of the oils that the baby needs to develop its brain, its eyesight, its nervous system, and so on. And if it doesn't get enough from its mother, it will not develop to its full capacity, and it will start scavenging the oils from the mother because it will take what it can get. And where does it scavenge from? It scavenges mostly from the mother's brain, which is the highest. It's not a storage place, but it's where most of the omega oils will be found. It's in the brain. And so the moms are damaged while they carrying the fetuses. The fetuses are damaged because they're not getting enough. And then, of course, when the baby is born and the mom is breastfeeding, she is still the source of all the nutrients for the baby, and she needs to have these oils. Now, at the bottom here, I've said beware, because toxicity is a serious and real issue. And this is one very real reason why I think these particular products are the right ones to take. There are hundreds of different brands of omega-3 oils out there. You just have to go into the pharmacy and you'll see that. And most of them are actually not worth taking. Why do I say that? Because they aren't tested for the presence of toxins. And fish, the fatty fish, will collect the toxins that are floating around in the ocean where they swim. And so if you have fish harvested from toxic oceans and the oils then collected to put into capsules, you will have those toxins in the capsules and you will be swallowing those toxins. And that is a real issue. Now here we have a product where they absolutely guarantee that they test for over 200 possible toxins, and they have a tolerance level of 0 parts per million, meaning that if it's detectable at that extremely low rate, they will reject the raw material. So it's a very trustworthy product. But the other thing, and I read an alarming information on Saturday, and it was about farmed fish and the prevalence of farmed fish in our diets, and of course as a source for these supplement oils. Farmed fish is toxic, afraid to say, and the reason is that the fish are grown they form sort of netted areas in the water, and so they're grown in enormous numbers in a very confined space. They are fed pellets for food because they can't forage for their own food. And those pellets have got antibiotics in them and all sorts of things that the fish normally would not need. And they end up swimming in a soup of their own excrement and also the dissolved non-eaten pellets. If any of you feed your dogs pellet food and the bowl gets wet in rain, you see that sort of soupy, goopy, revolting mess that those pellets form. And the fish live in that. And then the fish, when they are of a suitable size, are harvested and sent to market. And those fish are not actually suitable for human consumption. And here you can be assured that the fish that are the source of the oils that are in omega-3 salmon oil plus live in the wild as they ought to, in non-toxic oceans, and the oils do not carry the toxins that are prevalent in most of the others. Is it worth paying attention to that? 100%. So next slide, please, Drew. The fourth component, the slides have shifted, hey? The fourth component is the multi-mineral, multivitamin complex. We need all these vitamins and minerals. They like the spark plugs of everything that goes on in our body. And this particular product, they are chelated, they are very well absorbed, they come from natural sources, and you can be sure that you've got everything on board, which is essential for your good health. And then finally, I just want to point out that we need protein as well. And protein we need because it is the source of the building blocks for everything that our body builds. All our muscle, all our nails, all our hair, all the structural parts of our body require protein. But also the enzymes require protein. And the enzymes are the molecules that enable the chemical reactions that our body undergoes to take place. I'd love to tell you more about enzymes. They're amazing because they allow the body to do very complex chemical reactions, some of which can't be done in a test tube, but others of which can be done in a test tube, but only under very high heat or something like that. And the body's got to do it at body temperature. So these are magical molecules, and our body makes them on demand. When they need particular enzymes to do particular jobs, they make the enzymes that they need. And if they don't have the building blocks to make those enzymes, they can't make them, and then those functions can't happen effectively. So here we have a shake. It's the only one on the market with the complete balanced amino acid profile. The way I like to explain that is that if you play the game Scrabble in the English language, you know that there's only one Z and one X, and you're not sure whether you're happy to get that letter or not, because you're not sure whether you'll be able to use it on the board. On the other hand, there are lots of the vowels, the A's and E's and I's and so on. If you were to want to play Scrabble in the Zulu language, for example, using a set that was designed for the English language, you wouldn't get very far with the game, because the Zulu language uses lots of M's, lots of Z's, lots of X's, lots of N's, lots of C's, and those are not letters that are used in the same number in the English language. And so it's important that you have this good, complete amino acid profile. It's controlled in terms of how your body responds to it, in terms of the sugar levels rising, so you don't get a big surge of sugar, and you don't get your insulin upset. And it has been proven to be very effective for weight loss and so on. So it's a very good product to make sure that you're getting great protein. And then the next slide is about the kids, because that's gone really pear-shaped, Drew. The kids are also important, and kids need supplements because they are growing at a great rate. They need all the nutrients that we adults need in the correct ratios for children, and they need them on a daily basis to make sure that they grow well, that they develop well, that they are able to function at their best, both physically and mentally. And so there are very few children's supplements that fill all these gaps that we've been talking about for the adult supplements. And many of the supplements that you buy for kids in the shops are filled with sugar, artificial sweeteners, artificial flavors, and not all the really essential other nutrients. And so we've got something called Vita Squares, and Vita Squares are chewable. And what is special about them that you will find nowhere else is that they include the TRNN oils, which I spoke about, as being so important for energy production and for the cell membranes. And as these kids are growing, they're making more cells. That's how they grow. And if they don't have those oils on board, the new cells do not have properly formed membranes. And if they don't have properly formed membranes, they can't make the energy, the organs can't function properly. And it was Vita Squares that made the first big significant difference in the life of my children. The second thing that really worked for them was Vita Guard. Vita Guard is the children's equivalent of the Carotenoid Complex, which is the immune booster, the antioxidant, and so on. And it's got the goodies that come from the correct fruits and vegetables that one needs to be fully nourished. There is a chewable all-C. This is an extra vitamin C that is delicious, that the kiddies can chew it, and it's actually quite a good alternative to sweets because it tastes like sweets and the kids get some extra vitamin C. And particularly when they're trying to, when you're trying to deal with things like the flu season and so on, extra vitamin C is a really good idea. Then there's something called Liquevite, and the Liquevite is a liquid kiddies supplement. So it's for the younger children, the ones who aren't yet able to chew, but it is full of things that would work for older children who prefer it, and even for older people like the elderly who no longer are able to swallow the adult supplements and would prefer a liquid, and it can make a big difference in their lives. And then I must mention for the kids, the omega-3 is super important as well. And the omega-3 comes in 2 capsule sizes. The adult one is quite a big capsule, which is a bit beyond small children. But there's a small capsule, which is very much within the capacity of children to take. And the remarkable thing about children is that if you don't sow the seed in their minds that omega tastes fishy and that's not nice, they are happy to chew the capsules and taste the fish and swallow it. And so you need to actually consider doing the right thing for your children to maximize their ability to cope in a world that is extremely stressful for children as well, and to grow strong, to develop their mental capacity to the best of their capacity, to develop their physical capacity properly, and so on. So I hope that I have pointed out to you some of the flaws in what was my thinking as well, in terms of whether I was getting a balanced diet and able to get a balanced diet. I don't think one can from one's normal diet. That therefore supplementation is important if you want to stay healthy, and the choice of your supplements is exceptionally important. And that in NeoLife, I personally have found supplements that I trust 100%. I trusted my kids' lives to it and my husband's life to it, and anyone else who crosses my path, I would not hesitate in trusting their health to these products. So I wish you all well in your own health journey, in your journey to help other people to better health, and in our joint effort to make the world a happier and a healthier place. Thanks for listening. I hope it was useful.
Andre, thank you so much. That was amazing. And apologies to you and to anybody. We had a few connectivity issues there, and I had to take over Andre's slides, and the formatting changed. And so the slides weren't as pretty as they would have normally been. But I just think that information was on point. And I look at my life. These products have been part of my family's life for 47 years. My 3 children are 3rd generation on these NeoLife products. And one of the greatest things this company has given us is just amazing health as a family, because it's given us the opportunity to plug our dietary gaps, those gaps that you spoke about at the beginning, plug our dietary gaps with good whole food nutrition. And so I really believe that we've got to the point, a point in time where we can no longer live life by default. If you're just floating through life, hoping that what you are eating is going to get you through, the numbers are not stacked in your favor. The ratios are not looking good when it comes to chronic disease. It's come to a point where every one of us needs to actually take responsibility to make sure that our bodies have the nutrition, the nutrients, so our bodies can look after themselves, so our kids' bodies can grow and repair and renew and protect themselves. It is our responsibility. And so the question I want every one of you to ask yourself is, do we need to supplement? And in my biased opinion, and from the information which has been shared tonight, I believe that answer is absolutely yes. If you're not supplementing, I believe you are at major risk. Maybe not today, not tomorrow, next year, but give it 5 years, give it 10 years, give it 15 years, your body is at risk and you'll eventually run into something a little bit sinister. And so you need to be supplementing. So the next question is, what supplements should you take? And that is where NeoLife steps in. And we just want to become your nutrition home, a place that you can get products that aren't based on the latest hype or fads, products that are based on nutrition science, products that are based in nature. Our nutrition is modeled on the blueprint of nature, whole food, organic nutrition, a place where you can get your questions answered. And so I really believe that is where we can make a difference to everybody on the call tonight. And if there's one, I'm healthy. And I can see there's some people on the call tonight that have messaged that are struggling with health challenges, and they've got a lot of value from tonight's call. But the people that are healthy, I want to talk to you. If you're healthy, you want to remain healthy. And don't wait for that sledgehammer to hit you over the back of the head, as Andre described. Get proactive, do something about it now, because health is your greatest wealth. I know it's a cheesy saying, but too often people only realize it's a true saying when it's too late. So even if you are healthy, even if your kids are healthy, start that good nutrition journey now. And just to close off this call, I want to launch something very, very quickly that we are very excited about. I'm going to share my screen with you. We have something which we call, that is not the right presentation. Okay, 1 second, stop share. Okay. You're doing well with our presentations tonight. Okay, so we have something which we call NeoLife University. And NeoLife University is for our NeoLife distributors. We want to train you, we want to empower you, we want to equip you so you can go out and you can make a positive difference in your community. And so everybody, I want you to, after this call, go to https://africa.neolifeu.com. This is the NeoLife University site for Africa. Okay, so make a note of that. https://africa.neolifeu.com. Okay, and that will take you to a website that looks like this. Okay, which is our NeoLife U website. You'll see the address. That's our web address. And here, if you haven't already registered, you can go and register. And you get these amazing courses that are going to teach you about the stuff that Dr. Andre has spoken to you about tonight, and so much more. The first one is quality philosophy. Understand why our nutrition is the best nutrition you're going to find on the planet. But the new course and there's so many other ones, such as heart health, weight management, joint health, skincare, modern day toxicology. But the new one that we have just launched is a digestive health course. Okay, we know your digestive system plays such an important role in your overall health. There's so much research around it right now, and it's important that you look after it. And so this is a new course on digestive health. So to sign up for the course, you would click on the module and you can enroll. This is completely free, and you'll go through all the videos that are entailed in this module. Okay, go to course curriculum, and you can start. There's three videos to make up this module, and then you get to take a course quiz. And this is going to empower you not only to make sure that your digestive system is healthy and you can eat the right things and take the right supplements, but you can go and teach people that you love and people that you care about. So I just want to encourage you to all plug into that NeoLife University site if you haven't already. Do that digestive module. And to everybody on the call, I want to thank you for giving us your time tonight. My prayer, my wish for you is that this information makes a positive difference in your life. And to the guests on the call, thank you for joining us. The person who invited you onto this call, they did so because they love you, they care for you, and they believe this information is going to help you. So reach out to them, get back in touch with them, get onto the product. If you know people that need to hear this information, share their names or pass their contact details onto your NeoLife distributor or become a distributor yourself, because we truly want to make this world a healthier and happier place. We cannot do it on our own. We need people like you and me to get out into our worlds and share this information with everybody else.